A tailor who cut a robe in the wrong shade of yellow wasn't making a mistake of taste. He was committing a crime against the throne. For most of 1,000 years in China, the color of your clothing was decided not by your money, but by the law, and the brightest color of all belonged to exactly one man in the entire empire. We're going to walk through 5 forbidden colors and symbols, and each one shows how power used color to freeze the social order in place. The last one will show you how this same idea is quietly still with us today, in places you would never expect. This shade took the name Ming Huang, or bright yellow, and from the Tang dynasty onward, it belonged to the emperor alone. In Qing dynasty court records, this brightest yellow stayed reserved for the emperor, the empress dowager, and the empress at formal occasions. No one else could wear it, and the law didn't treat a violation as a fashion mistake. It treated it as a political offense. If you want to know the rest of these forbidden colors, then do subscribe and stay with me. This is where we sit with how power in Asia truly worked, slowly, the way it deserves. Choosing yellow wasn't about vanity. It traced back to cosmology. In the Chinese system of Wuxing, the 5 elements, yellow belongs to earth and the center. The emperor served as the son of heaven, the pivot between heaven and earth, and so the central color turned into his personal signature. Claiming yellow meant claiming to be the center of the world itself. This turned into a political argument made visible through silk and dye. You can still see this claim in the architecture of the Forbidden City in Beijing. The main palaces and the chief ceremonial halls carry yellow glazed tile roofs, while the surrounding buildings use grey or green, a contrast that wasn't aesthetic at all. It was legal. Yellow tiles marked the highest level of authority, and using them without permission counted as overstepping your rank. The color itself carried a legal status, and anyone who approached the palace saw a sea of yellow that announced the emperor's presence before a single guard spoke. What makes this even more striking is that yellow dye wasn't rare or expensive. The scarcity came from law, not from nature. A commoner might have had the money to buy a yellow robe, but the law said he couldn't wear it. The Tang Emperor Gaozong formally barred commoners from yellow in the year 668, and the prohibition only tightened from there. Li Yuan, the founder of the Tang, had already begun reserving this reddish yellow for himself decades earlier, and Gaozong simply made the ban absolute. A tailor in Chang'an knew that cutting the wrong shade meant confiscation, fines, or worse. The color acted as a document you wore, announcing exactly where you stood and forbidding you to stand anywhere else. If you think the monopolies stopped at color, the next symbol will change your mind. The next one wasn't even a color, it was a creature, and the number of its claws could cost you your life. The emperor's dragon had 5 claws. Everyone else's could have only 4, which made it a different creature entirely by law. A 4-clawed dragon wasn't a dragon at all. It was a python, or mang, and the distinction was written into statute. The Qing dynasty's official ritual regulations codified this down to the last detail. A robe with the wrong number of claws wasn't a style error. It was a usurpation of a legal seal. Imagine walking into a crowded imperial court. Hundreds of officials in silk, hundreds of robes embroidered with creatures that looked almost the same. The number of claws told everyone instantly who answered to the emperor and who did not. The dragon robe acted as a mobile legal document, broadcasting rank across a hall before anyone spoke a word. Even a mythical creature had been regulated by bureaucrats, and the difference between a dragon and a python wasn't a matter of folklore, it was a matter of law. The python was a permitted creature. The dragon was a legal seal, and wearing it without the right number of claws was treated as a direct challenge to the throne itself. You'd think one shade of yellow was enough to reserve. It wasn't. They came for a second. Tang rulers also barred commoners from wearing Ming Huang, a reddish yellow that came too close to the imperial tone. Commoners kept trying to get around the rule. The court issued repeated decrees cracking down on people who hid restricted colors under outer garments, which tells us that evasion was common and enforcement was active. The state wasn't relying on tradition or polite custom. It was policing your wardrobe, and it watched closely enough to know that people were trying to cheat. In the capital, a merchant might have earned enough to dress like a noble, but the law blocked him from wearing that particular reddish yellow, even in private. The restriction reached past public ceremonies into daily life. Your money could buy the fabric, but it couldn't buy the color. That was the whole point. The state knew that if a merchant could look like an official, the boundary between commoner and elite would start to blur, and blurred boundaries meant blurred power. The law wanted to make sure that a poor noble always looked socially superior to a rich commoner, because looking superior was how the hierarchy stayed real. Let me ask you something. If you had lived then, and you had the money but not the rank, would you have risked wearing the forbidden color? Tell me below. I read every answer. Even within the palace, even among the emperor's own blood, the rules didn't stop. This next shade divided father from son. The Qing dynasty codified a full palette of yellows, each reserved for a precise rank. Ming Huang, or apricot yellow, was assigned to the crown prince alone. Lower imperial relatives were given blue grades instead of yellow. Think about what that meant. A father sat on the throne in bright yellow, while his own son, the heir to the empire, couldn't wear the same shade, which meant the emperor and the crown prince were separated by nothing more than a tint. The Qing recognized a whole graded ladder of yellows, so fine it becomes almost absurd. The brightest, Ming Huang, for the emperor. A golden yellow, Jin Huang, for the highest ranks below him. Apricot yellow for the crown prince, and still lower grades of yellow for lesser members of the imperial family. Each shade mapped to a position, so you didn't need to ask who someone was. You only needed to look at the tint of his robe. Below the emperor, the whole of society was sorted by color, rank by rank, in a ladder you could read from across a room. Tang official dress codes made this visible to everyone. If you wore purple, you held the third rank or higher. If you wore red or scarlet, you held the fourth or fifth rank. Green meant the sixth or seventh rank. Blue or cyan meant the eighth or ninth. A noblewoman wearing red didn't make a choice. She wore a legal uniform. Your color announced your rank before you opened your mouth. Even when merchants were wealthier than the officials they served, they were barred from these colors and from the finest silks. The law made sure that wealth couldn't buy visual status. A merchant could have owned more land than a low-ranking official, but his robe could never be purple, and that visual gap reminded everyone who held the real power. The same rules applied to women. Noble women could wear elaborate silks and brighter combinations, while commoner women were limited to plainer fabrics in restricted hues. The system reached into every household, and it made sure that a person's clothes told you their place before they ever moved or spoke. Enforcement was real but uneven. Local officials sometimes looked the other way at minor infractions that didn't threaten public order. When a clothing violation intersected with political suspicion, the Sumptuary infraction became evidence of disloyalty. The law was flexible, but the threat was always present. Color froze the social order in place because the state made sure that looking like the wrong person could ruin your life. The most surprising part is that this same impulse never truly disappeared. Imperial yellow was, in effect, the original trademark. It was a color owned as exclusive property and enforced by law more than 1,000 years before trademark existed. Today, a company can own a color and defend it in court. Christian Louboutin holds a registered trademark on the red color positioned on the outsole of his footwear, and he has fought competing fashion houses to protect it. Tiffany & Company holds a trademark protecting its robin's egg blue, the custom shade known as Pantone 1837, a number chosen for the year the company was founded. Other brands have pursued the same strategy. The parallel is structural, not identical. Trademark protection is limited to specific products and jurisdictions. The underlying impulse is the same. Controlling who else is allowed to use a specific color is Imperial yellow reborn in a boardroom. The robe was never about beauty. It was a document you wore, announcing exactly where you stood and forbidding you to stand anywhere else. Today, a company can own a shade of red on a shoe or a certain blue and defend it in court. The emperor owned his yellow the same way. His court was the whole of China, and the penalty wasn't a lawsuit. Power has always been less about owning a thing than about deciding who else is forbidden to. If this was worth your time, then subscribe and stay a while. There are more of these hidden rules of power to come, and the next one is already being prepared. And if you want to know why Asia's oldest people never lose their minds, watch this video next.